All right, today we're diving into a really big question, one that almost all of us have to face at some point. How do you really know when someone just isn't right for you? And this isn't just about romantic partners, you know? It could be a friend, even someone you work with. So let's just jump right in and figure this out.
So how can you really tell? It's a tough one, right? I mean, the signs can be so subtle, and it is so easy to just explain them away. You know how it is, especially when you've put a lot of time and energy and, well, care into that person. But here's the thing. Just asking yourself this question, that's the first huge step toward a happier, healthier life.
Okay, so where do the first clues usually pop up? Well, it's almost never some big, dramatic explosion. It's usually something much quieter. It's like an internal warning system. You know that little feeling in your gut that you just can't quite name? The one that's telling you something is just off? Yeah, that. Let's really dig into what that feels like.
So first up, constant discomfort. Just ask yourself this, can you really relax around this person? Like truly be at ease? Or do you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells? You know, always second-guessing what you're about to say, or maybe even hiding little parts of yourself just to avoid an argument. That is a huge sign. A good relationship should feel like, coming home. It shouldn't feel like you're on stage giving a performance 24/7.
And this next one, man, this is a big one. You feel emotionally drained. Think about it like this. Relationships are supposed to charge you up, right? They should add energy to your life. But if you walk away from spending time with them and you just feel exhausted or anxious or even kind of sad, that's basically your emotional battery blinking red. It's a clear signal that this connection is taking way more from you than it's giving back.
Okay, and this one is absolutely huge. You just can't truly be yourself. Do you feel like you have to change? I'm not talking about small compromises. I mean changing your core interests, your opinions, your passions, just to get their approval. That's a red flag. Because when you start losing that feeling of being your authentic self, you're not just compromising. You're literally erasing bits and pieces of who you are just to fit in. Which brings us to this quote, and it just hits the nail on the head. Listen to your intuition. Sometimes a person can look perfect on paper, They check every single box, and yet you still feel uneasy, and you can't even explain why. That feeling, that's not nothing. That's your intuition, and it's powerful data. It's your subconscious screaming, hey, something's wrong here, even before your logical brain catches up. So please, don't ignore.
Okay, so we've talked about your internal warning system, right? Those gut feelings. But now let's shift gears and talk about the external stuff, the things you can actually see and point to. We're talking about the red flags.
Now, we all throw around the term red flag pretty casually, but let's get specific about what we mean here. A red flag isn't just a pet peeve or a quirky habit. No, a red flag is a clear warning sign that there's a real potential for a problem, maybe even an unhealthy dynamic in the relationship.
So what are some of these common red flags? Well, first off, lack of trust. It's the foundation, and without it, everything crumbles. Then there's control or manipulation. And listen, this can be sneaky. It's not always obvious. It can be them constantly checking up on you or making you feel guilty for hanging out with your friends. And disrespect. Even when they say, oh, I was just joking. Yeah, no, it's still disrespect. Here's a big one to watch for. When you have good news, are they your biggest cheerleader, or do they kind of downplay your success? And finally, constant, unresolved fights. If you feel like you're having the same argument on a loop, you're not growing together, you're just stuck.
And this leads to a really fundamental question. Do your futures even line up? Look, you don't have to agree on pizza toppings or your favorite TV show, but when it comes to the big stuff, your core values about your career, about family, money, the whole lifestyle you want to build, you've got to be on the same page, or at least in the same book. If your vision for the future is on a totally different planet from theirs, that's not something you can just ignore. That points to a really deep incompatibility. Okay, so maybe some of this is hitting home for you. Recognizing these signs, that is a huge and honestly a really brave first step, seriously. But then comes the hard part, right? What do you do with this knowledge? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how to go from insight to action. But before we do anything, this point is so important. We have to figure out if these signs are a pattern and not just a one-off thing. I mean, come on, everybody has a bad day, right? A single argument, one thoughtless comment, that doesn't mean the whole relationship is doomed. But is it happening over and over again? Is it a recurring theme? That's the key. Because that's when you know it's not just a bad day, it's probably a bad fit. So what's the path forward? Well, step one is you gotta talk about it. Honestly and calmly, you need to say how you're feeling and what you're seeing.
Step 2, if that conversation leads to absolutely nothing, if nothing changes, you have to consider parting ways. It's often so much healthier to be alone than to be in a bad relationship. And step 3, if you're just feeling lost in it all, don't be afraid to seek some clarity. A professional, like a psychologist, can give you a totally objective view that can be incredibly helpful.
And I just want to leave you with this thought for a second. You deserve someone who helps you grow, not holds you back. Seriously, the right people, whether they're partners or friends, should make you feel bigger, not smaller. They should be excited about your growth. You deserve cheerleaders in your life, not anchors.
So in the end, it really can all boil down to one simple but incredibly powerful question. Is your relationship bringing you more joy or more stress? Just sit with that for a minute. When you strip everything else away, what's the real balance? Because a good relationship, a relationship that's right for you, should be a source of happiness and support, not a source of constant stress. And your answer to that question? It might just tell you everything you need to know.